Welcome back, my dark beings, to the Dark Void, ruled by me, Nile51. And today we're back to another reaction, a creepypasta reaction. Yes, it's a Tuesday, but what happened? But hold up, sorry. But of course, that doesn't mean reactions are gonna be on Mondays always. It just depends whether or not I forget. I'm not joking. I forgot that it was Monday yesterday, and I just made a video of Dungeons 3. Either way, yeah. So either way, it doesn't matter as long as I make a. I can't talk. But yeah, so yeah, I decided. You know what? I remembered. You know what? Tuesday, we're gonna be doing reaction, and yeah, of course, no videos on whatever day I can do a reaction. But either way, yeah, today we're gonna be watching. So of course, continue on with the Spooktober. Basically creepypastas during reactions and all that. We're gonna be watching Trapped in the Booth by Mr. Creepypasta. Hopefully I got that one right. If not, then please correct me in the comments. But it's gonna be the description of this video is gonna be down below in the comments, so you can go look it up yourselves. So you don't have to deal with my voice. And I hope I got the name right. I hope, because my brain is not working. It never does. But yeah, this is Trapped in the Booth of Creepypasta Storytime. So let's see what this is going on. Alright, let's do it.
I hadn't wanted to go to Applebee's. My friends insisted. I'm not opposed to
I like the
going out for a
background.
meal, but I hate going to Applebee's in our town. It's like a gathering place for every half-drunk Chad
there it
and
is.
happy hour drunk who doesn't have enough money to drink at the yacht club. But too much.
Oh, so there's the name of the writer here?
We weren't big drinkers. I mean, we like to tie a few on sometimes, but these guys get downright sloppy. You know, we get the booth as far from the bar as we can. Still so damn noisy in there. By the end of the night, we're all yelling at each other just to be heard over the jukebox and the drunk. I spend the rest of the night with my eardrums pounding and my head ready to crack open. That's how it's always been until tonight.
Hey, we get too fun out there.
We're at the back booth, like always. And when I saw this guy, Mark was talking about some girl that he was seeing from work. Frank laughing like a donkey. Laid his drink bouncing around, threatening to spill as he pounded the table.
Hey,
I looked up for my cowboy burger just in time to see this guy honkering over his food at the end of the row. He was bent over his plate, the top of his bald head gleaming, and the light overhead lit him like a wax sculpture.
Hey.
Not usually one for people watching, but the guy stood out. You know, he reminded me of a story from Temple back when I still went with my parents.
Also, let's just leave him
alone. A story
alone.
about a guy who had built a creature to get revenge, you know, a golem. And that was my first thought when I saw this fella. It sounds like a little harsh, but I only mean that he appeared not like a man, but like an approximation of a man. He had on a white button-up, a red tie hanging loose around his neck like a noose. And even from here, I could see the sweat starting to pool under his arms. You know, despite the noise, I could almost hear him perfectly. First, I thought he was eating his meal loudly, bent over at the waist like a dog. But the longer I watched, the more I thought he might be crying. His shoulders were hitching in slow up and down jerks.
I just say, just leave him alone. Just leave the guy alone.
To just be sobbing into his plate. I felt a little voyeuristic as I watched him live what was likely the worst day of his life.
They just stop looking.
He'd probably been stood up for a date or lost his mother, and here I was just watching him.
Just
When
leave him
Mark
alone.
leaned nearly into my ear, I jumped a little when he spoke. So looking at it, Pally? He followed my line of sight and found the poor guy before I could. Oh, a guy's got a date with a rope layer. Frank turned to look, but winced as Mark kicked him. Don't look. You got no sense, poor guy. Looks like the guy we had in the gas station the other night. Comes in high as a kite. When I wouldn't sell him beer, he just starts to cry, and Mark went on, but I wasn't really paying attention anymore.
They just leave him alone.
I felt a little bad for continuing to watch him, but I just couldn't turn away.
You got
Something
to,
about him
man.
was mesmerizing. It was like driving past a car crash, being unable to stop staring at the bodies on the pavement. You knew it was wrong to stare, but you just couldn't stop. Frank was braying laughter again, and I could see our waitress contemplating whether to offer him another beer as she took our empty plates away. Mark told her he was fine. Frank ordered another beer, and after several tense seconds in an elbow from Mark, I snapped back to myself and said I was okay.
Okay, good.
Jeez, bud. Mark said as the waitress shuffled off. You gonna go over there and propose?
But still, just leave him alone.
I asked, biting into my burger and realizing it was lukewarm. Had I really been staring at the poor guy as my hamburger turned to ice? You've been staring at him for almost 10 minutes. I thought you were going to order him a drink for a minute. We all laughed. Mine being a little forced. And then Mark stood up and waved at a pair coming through the door. Jim and his wife, Celine. They waved at us in turn. And Frank moved to our side of the table so the two lovebirds could sit together. They'd been inseparable since college. And I don't think I'd seen one without the other more than a handful of times. They excused their lateness. Their sitter had been late, and Jim started on a story about how she had gotten lost and turned down the wrong road.
That always happens.
Turned my attention back to the poor guy 2 booths down.
Dude, just leave him alone. Don't stare at
He
him.
was still bent over his burger, still quietly sobbing.
Dude, I swear, if he looks back...
Moved, it started to seem wrong. I was no expert on sobbing, but this guy's herky-jerky movements were starting to look like something else.
Just leave him alone.
The rational part of me chastised myself for continuing to stare at this poor fella, but
Yeah, just leave him alone.
I was like a moth to flame now. It was my car wreck. I was starting to notice signs of foul play. When he snorted loudly, I heard the laughter for the first time. It made me shiver a little as I heard it thrum into me like badly played piano notes.
Oh, here we go.
The guy wasn't crying. He was laughing. The more I looked, the more I could see bits of meat and lettuce sprayed over the tabletop. The longer I looked, the more I wondered how I had misunderstood his laughter for crying.
Dude, this is where you
Now
leave him
drawn
alone.
deeper into his web of strangeness, no escape in sight. Crying was one thing. I could understand crying, but who sat in a booth by themselves and laughed?
Probably an own joke. Probably a joke.
A mental case who was off his meds.
Or just someone that just enjoys laughing.
Behind Celine's shoulder, I wondered if he might be dangerous.
Just leave him alone.
Maybe we should leave. Maybe I should suggest a change of venue, but all thought escaped me as he finally lifted his head from
Oh, no. Don't look at him.
the scream that welled up inside of me was cut off by my constricting throat and likely sounded like nothing as much as a sigh.
Is he
The
looking at
man's
you?
face looked like a fantastic bit of prosthetic. It was like a piece of Hollywood decoration that's just a little too realistic. The kind you worry might contain a person who wants to bite. His face looked like the front of a thumb, calloused and rippled with wrinkles or ridges. His eyes were like colorless slits, something slashed into his face with a knife.
Oh,
It
man.
appeared to be drawn on like a cartoon character. It was unreal. Something that shouldn't exist in polite society
Just-
inside a circus tent.
Dude, you just leave it alone. Just leave it
Mouth,
alone.
though.
Just leave it alone.
His mouth was the worst.
Just
His
leave
mouth
it
was full of
alone.
long, needle-like teeth, reminding me of an anglerfish as it protruded from his thin lips. Those teeth looked like they would never close comfortably.
Just
From
leave
here,
it
it looked
alone.
like they would consistently poke at your lips and gums, and you'd be in agony most of the time.
Just leave it
Pieces
alone.
of meat on those teeth, raw red chunks that had been smeared by them. That's when I looked down at his plate.
Dude, just leave it alone.
It was covered in the remains of raw hamburger meat. I doubted like hell that the staff had just handed this guy raw beef, but the alternative seemed even wilder. The alternative was
my
that this
gosh.
man had brought his own raw meat from home so he could just consume it here.
This is when you just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Don't bother.
As the horror ran through me like ice water, I
Don't bother.
looked up to see those colorless slits observing me. Two of
Oh.
us just staring at each other for a count of 5.
It's
Then
too
he
late.
pulled those thin lips and monstrous teeth into a smile, and I could see red pooling at the edges of his flesh.
Oh,
I
no.
glanced over at Mark and Frank, both now sitting on this side of the booth, but neither of them had noticed him.
Just
The
leave it
four of
alone.
them were involved in a conversation like there wasn't a monster sitting 20 feet away.
Just ignore him.
Possible that anyone could be having a normal conversation so close to this creature.
I could.
Its very presence should have triggered some ancient primal node deep in our brains and
No, I would
forced
just
us to
ignored
either
it.
destroy it or flee from it.
No, I would just ignore it.
We're
Just leave it
talking
alone.
about jobs and school and
Just ignore it.
him and Celine's daughter while this thing got to exist in humanity with the rest of us.
Just leave it alone.
It's too much to handle.
Just leave it alone.
Suddenly I wanted out.
Just
I wanted to
ignore
be
it.
anywhere but here. I wanted to tap on Mark to get him to move or look up or just acknowledge that I was losing my mind within
Just
reach of him, but
leave it alone.
he wouldn't respond. I managed to flick my finger at his arm, bumping him a little, but he only rubbed a hand over it as if a bug had landed on him. Celine was talking about the new Pokemon game. Mark
Hey,
and Frank were
it's
just
good.
nerdy enough and broke enough to be enraptured by her descriptions.
Hey, that's good. Just ignore
I was
whatever that
stuck in
thing
a state
is.
of eye contact with this thing, and the
Oh
longer
my
I looked,
gosh.
the more it seemed to drink me in with its strange eyes.
Why are you still looking?
And then, without warning, it just sank down into its seat,
Okay.
lost beneath its table.
Okay, that's good. Just leave it alone.
I panicked. Suddenly, not being able to see it was worse than having it on display. Could it slink beneath our table? How far could it go? How close could it get? I was suddenly imagining the damage those teeth could do to a foot, even a foot with a shoe.
This is what you get
Pulled
for
mine
not
up a
ignoring.
little higher as Celine's words washed over me.
Just
It
leave it
didn't
alone.
surface for quite some time, and you
Just
you'd have
ignore it.
said that a thing that size would not have gone unnoticed.
Oh my gosh.
And then he
man.
slid back up from under the table
Okay,
to the
that's good.
opposite side of the booth.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
His grin, ghastly ear to ear. He looked like a little kid who's trying to play with a table behind him.
Just ignore it.
There was still a table between us and him, but I was no longer sure how much protection that provided us. I didn't know
Just-
what his mental state was, whether
You.
he meant us harm or not. But when he dipped back down,
You are the one. You should have just ignored it.
"What's wrong with you?" Mark suddenly asked,
Just.
turning to look at me as I shuddered beside him. I pointed to the empty place where the man had been sitting, and Mark looked over before scoffing loudly. "Oh no, your boyfriend left. Don't worry, I'm sure most of these guys at the bar will take you home if you ask them nicely enough."
See, that's a good friend. Just ignore.
Noticing
Just-
my discomfort.
that's good.
Alarmed.
Exactly.
Besides with this guy that was sitting a couple of tables back. Couldn't take his eyes off him. I swear I thought he was going to try and console the guy for a minute. Dude was just sitting there crying. This freak sits over here, and the bald and sweaty head began to surface behind Celine. And when I shouted for her to look out, the whole restaurant went silent.
Oh God, here we
Soon
go.
Celine turned to look, but
It.
there was nothing behind them.
Oh God. It's
I had
begun.
enough, though. I pushed Mark and Frank out of the way, freeing myself from the booth, because I wanted to check under the table behind us. He'd been crouching down there, grinning like the little goblin.
There
he
you
was,
go.
but as I got down on my knees and looked beneath,
And it begins.
I was greeted with nothing but an empty space.
This
The
is what
waitress asked me what I was
What is
looking
this?
for as I moved.
Oh my gosh, we're not even done.
But by then I was already intent on leaving.
Just.
I got into my car, I threw the keys into the ignition, I sped out as fast as I could.
Oh, I know what's about to
Getting home
happen.
now, I can't get that image out of my head.
This is what you get for
My
not
phone's been blowing up,
ignoring
and I
it.
know my friends are worried.
You just.
I want to assure them that everything's okay, but I
You should have ignored it.
make sense of it.
You should have ignored it.
What was that thing? Why did it take such an interest in me? Is it?
You looked at it. You looked
Did
at
it
it.
follow me home?
You looked at the thing.
Every time I close my eyes, I see those repulsive needle-like teeth and those no-color slits staring back.
Oh my gosh.
Every time I close my eyes,
You should have ignored it.
I wonder if
Why did you look at it?
I'll ever be able to see anything
You looked at it.
but that creature again.
You looked at this thing. Wait, is it over? Oh, dang.
Fall is finally here, and it's finally cooling down, which means it's time for you guys to get yourself a hot cup of tea.
Okay, so I think we already know how this ends. But yeah, okay, well. Alright, well, if you'd like to hear the rest of the video, because he usually does the whole shtick at the end of the video. But either way, wow. Wow. Okay, so that ending wasn't as terrifying as I would have thought, because by the end of that, I would have thought that, oh, the thing would have followed them home, like, started appearing everywhere. But it really ended up with him just going to lose his mind now. But yeah, when you see something like that, just leave it alone. Don't bother. I mean, you don't know what that thing is on the table. If you start looking in for no reason, just ignore it. Ignore it, and hope that you will never see it again. But it looks like this guy is not going to be able to live his life now, because he's now going to be thinking about that whatever that creature is on the other side is. Seriously, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I mean, the way that this story went on and on, it was just, oh, with the creepiness here. Like I said, I don't know, like, I'm used to this stuff, so I don't know how to react. So I should react more, but it's just, I'm used to this stuff. But even still, it was pretty creepy. I mean, the way that thing was, like, looking at him, and the way he was looking at it, having that face, having those slits in the eyes, having the needle teeth. I mean, literally, like I said, the whole reason this all started, this all could have been avoided if this guy just ignored it. He just looked at it a little bit, moved away from it, and just stop looking at it and just ignored it, and hope that it goes away. Because that's the only way that was going to happen. Because sure as heck, it wasn't going to go away. Because the moment they started looking at him, it was all over for him. So for all I know, he's probably going to be now have to deal with that for the rest of his life. Either way, oh man, that was pretty weird. Either way, I hope you enjoyed today's video of today's video, a creepypasta reaction. I think oh yeah, that's what I used to call it. Yeah, but yeah, that was creepy. Let me know how you thought about the story. Let me know what you think would happen now with this person. What your theories about this, and also what would you have done in this situation? Me, I would have just looked at it once and just ignored it and just went on with my life and hoped to everything that this never happens to me. It never happen. Nothing happens, or just don't bother. Just oh yeah, look at that guy. That guy's like there's something happening, and then I just ignored it. Either way, that's what I would have done. But right now, comment, subscribe down below to join my dark army, and also I am your dark ruler, and you have to do whatever I say at the end of this video. You got no choice. You really got no choice. Trust me. Do not go against me. I am a dark ruler. Also, like the video to help me get into the algorithm. Share the video to help me spread the word around. And also, what else? What was I talking about again? Oh, right. My brain is just rotted for a moment. Also, press the black bell to be notified whenever my videos pop up. And what else? Yeah, my videos pop up. And also make sure you check out my channel every once in a while, because YouTube channel likes to remove the black bell from your feed, so you don't get any of my videos on your feed, which is not fair for me. Why? Why, YouTube channel? Why do you always do this to me? But either way, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And for right now, my creepy, spooky minions. Sorry, I just ate today. My creepy, spooky minions. Dismissed!